Moving on to our next question, we will begin with Mr. DeVore. How would you make Metro government more transparent, responsive, and accountable to residents?
First off, I would do an independent audit, starting from the bottom up. We need to find out where every penny is being spent. This is your money, and focusing on every project, every program that Metro Council and the Metro government is responsible for, so that you'll know exactly what's going on. Because this is your money, and you want that money being spent wisely for the people in the West End, East End, South, and North. But the point of the matter is that we got to focus on what's going on with our money and where it's being spent. And if it's not worth the program, we need to get rid of it and focus on what is best in building a safety and a wellness society when it comes to people being that they know they're safe, but guaranteed a good quality of life.
Ms. Pierce-Wright.
Thank you. City Hall, Metro government has a lot of great people who help it run as an engine, but it also has a lot of nepotism, a lot of toxic things that are happening internally. And so the first thing we need to do, and I agree with Mr. DeVore, is making sure that there are audits for every department, that the equity line is really addressed. We say we had a racial equity plan. How is that applied to the different departments? I hear from police officers. I hear from all kinds of people who tell me they've been passed up for promotion. So we got a lot of internal work to do, and that's what I would spend most of my time on. But I do want to address with Mr. D that not enough spaces for people to go. People are being cleaned up because they're homeless, and not all homeless people are on substances. There is not enough places for people to go. I want 24-hour community centers and more 24-hour places for people to go. Thank you.
Ms. Burnell.
Repeat the question.
Yes. How would you make Metro government more transparent, responsive, and accountable to residents?
Okay. This question is right up my alley because I am currently involved in a lawsuit that Metro Council filed against me because I exposed some things that went on behind closed doors. So I think it's important to remember every public servant in this city works for the people. You were elected to represent the people. We deserve to know what's going on in our city and with our money. One of the biggest things that we can do is expand the open data portal that we already have. There is some good information on there. We can expand upon that. We can take any open records requests that are filed and go ahead and put that information out for anybody else who may be looking for it. So that is one way that we can help expand that because people deserve to know where their money's being spent.
Mr. Datillo.
Yes. First, I'd like to say thank you for pointing out. Myself, I spent a couple of years homeless after the discovery that my father with the same name had taken my Social Security number and done the whole travel around the country collecting felonies. And I became a member of those people who live on the streets and slept on the concrete, and I learned a lot of valuable life lessons from it. We really do need to perform the full audits, and I would be proud to hire Tina to teach the City Council how to behave as adults, as we've seen they have issues doing with at times, and to make sure that they're spending the money properly. Other than that, I think that would be a good start. Audit every dang thing.
Mr. Hurt, repeating the question, how would you make Metro government more transparent, responsive, and accountable to residents?
Thank you. I would make Metro government more accountable and responsive by reversing the merger. I do not believe that Metro government should exist at this point. We were sold a bill of goods, we were sold progress, and it has been delivered as distance, it has been delivered as hidden decisions, and private meetings. We should make it very simple that all public meetings are literally public, perhaps streamed, but we need to go back to, and this is not about nostalgia. This is not some things used to be better. We need to be closer to the people making decisions everywhere.
Mr. Bailey.
Louisville needs a more transparent government. Audits need to happen. We need a see-through LMPD, one that you can trust, with new leadership, regulations, and a culture of accountability. And people need to be held accountable all throughout the government. So we need to look into things. I would like to also point out that in a previous question, I was meaning to say that this is not only a problem with LMPD, but a problem with the judicial system in Kentucky as a whole regarding the Breonna Taylor case. When I ran out of time, I yield.
Mr. Greenberg.
We've taken significant steps forward to make Louisville Metro government more transparent. When I first became mayor, I started holding weekly press conferences so the members of the media can ask me questions every week on any topics of their choosing, in addition to many other interactions with them throughout the week. With respect to LMPD, we've also taken steps there. Now, anytime that there's an officer-involved shooting, the body camera footage is released within 10 business days, in addition to many other steps forward under the community commitment that the chief and I voluntarily signed to make sure we build and strengthen trust with the community. We've cleared up the open records backlog so that people can get their requests for information quicker. And you can go online to one of the many Louisville Metro government dashboards that provide real-time information and where every dollar of your taxpayer money is spent.